I want to go ahead and go to our next caller here. This is Puck in Ohio. What's going on, Puck?
Hello. Well, I'm new to the atheist activist scene. I just got a Twitter like last week. I'm trying to have conversations with people to learn more. And one of the things that I'm coming up with is I was Christian, but I was never really knowledgeable about cults. And I was talking to someone who she recommended that I look into something called the
Sir, yes, you were.
Yeah, you just didn't know it. Yeah.
You're just part of a bigger one.
Okay. Okay. Well, so when I think of cults, like, honestly, the only thing I've got is, like, real biased information from, like, I watched a couple of episodes of Big Love, and that's probably it. So, like, I don't know how far this goes. And from my limited experience with it, the things that seem to stand out about it for me is that they seem to be isolated from society. It seems to be a very, very ingrained into every aspect of their life, and it seems to be centered around a very charismatic leader. So what else am I missing, and what should I know before I have more conversations with people who were formerly in cults?
I would say that it's mainly escalation. That's the thing that separates a cult from just a gathering of people around a charismatic guy. There were gurus in the 70s, and they created weird situations, but they didn't escalate to the form of a cult. When you isolate people from any kind of family members, when you remove any support structure, that's the moment where you start becoming a cult there. And so the biggest thing that cults separate from like your mainstream Christianity is you have to cut off all contact with your friends, your family. The only support structure you have is the charismatic leader, and then you'll do damn near anything. Like what there was one cult where people got their arms chopped off and they stayed in the cult, and they were just like, hey, it's cool.
Oh yeah,
you live, you die, whatever.
Yeah, being from Waco, there's a lot of people that are surprised to find out that the Koresh cult, they're still out there, they're still doing stuff. They have their compound. But Puck, I know that you must be familiar with it because I think you mentioned to the call screener, Stephen Hassan's BITE model is a really great resource to use when talking about cults. And for those of you who aren't familiar, there's this kind of a scholarly model on how we can define cults, because cults are it's a pejorative term that gets thrown around a lot, and sometimes the imprecision of language kind of cheapens the meaning of the word. So the way that they just define cults through the BITE model is behavior control, that's the B, information control, that's the I, thought control, that's the T, and emotional control. Okay, so behavior control is kind of like what Jordan was saying. It's the isolation that comes with being in the cult, getting away from other people. The information control is similar to that. You're spinning out your narratives. If you're preaching every Sunday and you're telling people they're not allowed to watch TV or something, there's the information control. Thought control is in lieu with that, but it's kind of like, oh, you can't lust after women, or you cannot lust after these other people. Meanwhile, the cult leader's got like 50 wives, because that's just kind of how they operate. And then the emotional control is, it's the threatening your friends and family, and like the threat of like shunning if you disobey. And people wonder, like, why don't people leave these groups? And that last part is a big part of it, because if you develop a dependency on these people, if these people are your family. The Tiger King stuff is kind of interesting recently, because like what Joe Exotic was doing, he got a lot of felons on, and good for him that he was giving people, a chance to work. But that was with the caveat of like, hey, you can't get a job anywhere else. I'm the only person here that's going to hire you, and you got the, I mean, like that's kind of seemed to be implied in what he was doing. And what was going on there. So yeah, there's some that I think looking at the BITE model is a good way to start if you want to look at some academic criteria on how to define a cult.
Yeah, and of course, everyone's individual experience with being a part of a cult is going to be different. So, there's no one story that's going to be universal for all of them. So I just want to gather as many stories as possible. It's just, there's so much to learn.
There is.
About atheism.
Oh my gosh, there is.
Yeah.
You can study your whole lifetime with this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, just like the past couple of weeks, it's like now I got to look up moral objectivity, and I got to look up substance dualism. There's a lot of research to do.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, but
you don't have to. You don't
Yeah,
have
that's
to.
true.
I'm going to be honest with you. You don't have to.
Okay.
You could eat an ice cream sandwich. Ice cream sandwiches are good. Try that.
Yeah, that's true. And you know,
great, Dan. I've been watching you for quite a while now. I love your work and I love what you do and I love the approach that you take with all your guests. So thank you very much for helping me.
Thank you, Puck. I appreciate that so much. Really awesome to get that kind of feedback from people calling. But yeah, like I relate to that in the sense that when I was first kind of figuring a lot of this stuff out, I was like spending time. It was in college when I was really deconstructing myself. So instead of studying for classes, I was studying ancient texts and trying to figure out Greek translations and like, you know, it's from the Bible and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, man, that took a mental toll on me. Trying to consume a lot of that information at once. So like definitely take it one day at a time, Puck, if you're really looking at this stuff. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. The world, despite what the world looks like right now, there will be another day to look at this stuff. So
yeah. At that age I was just drinking. So that's,
there you go.
that's a little different.
Well, now I drink more. So that's the problem there, I think.
See, that's escalation. Now we're getting into isolation. Then we're gonna get in real trouble. Bite it up. Come on, man.
Bite it up. That's right. So I want to get to our next caller